So there is a shocking statistic from this year's Alzheimer's conference that changes everything. 100% of people with both amyloid and tau in their brain develop cognitive impairment within 6 years. Every single one. So if you carry the ApoE4 gene like I do, this matters so much because we are more likely to develop these brain changes earlier than non-carriers. But here's the game changer. We now have 15 to 20-year window to prevent reaching this critical amyloid plus tau stage. And for the first time, the FDA just cleared a blood test that can detect these changes decades before symptoms appear. Hi, I'm Dr. Kevin Tran. I'm a doctor of pharmacy and an ApoE4 carrier. I'm also the founder of the Phoenix Community, which is a platform dedicated to helping ApoE4 carriers like you and I beat the odds and outsmart Alzheimer's. Through this personal journey that I have with ApoE4, I dive deep into the latest research and translate complex findings into hopefully clear and actionable insights we can all apply today to take control of our brain health. So today's video brings you groundbreaking revelation from the 2025 Alzheimer's Association International Conference, or AAIC. Now you are getting used to that because the majority of my videos are coming from this conference. This is the world's largest gathering of Alzheimer's researchers, and what they have discovered about the preclinical phase of Alzheimer's completely changes the game for us as ApoE4 carriers. We're talking about blood tests that work, a 2-decade window for prevention, and surprising protective factors like mindfulness that actually change brain pathology. Plus, they're calling for treatments specifically designed for us, both ApoE4 carriers and women. Let's dive into what this means for our future. All right, so before we explore the remarkable 20-year prevention window, we need to understand the breakthrough that make early detection accessible to everyone. Dr. Maria Carrillo, the Chief Science Officer of the Alzheimer's Association, dropped this bombshell at the conference.
Certainly in the US, we have the first FDA-cleared blood test that was announced a few weeks ago. And just last week, we heard positive news from the committee responsible for putting out the European Medicines Agency opinions on treatments. They actually published a positive opinion on a second amyloid treatment.
So this basically changes everything for us as ApoE4 carriers. So no more waiting for expensive PET scans, which, as you may know, might cost like 5 to 15K, and they are not covered by insurance for asymptomatic screening or any invasive spinal taps that require hospitalization. So a simple blood draw at your local Quest or LabCorp costing around $300 to $400 can now detect the earliest signs of Alzheimer's pathology, and the test measures protein that basically leak from dying brain cells into your bloodstream, giving us a window into what's happening in the brain without ever looking inside. But here's what makes this truly revolutionary. Dr. Villeneuve's research shows exactly what these blood tests can reveal.
And then among these plasma markers, the p-tau217 have been identified as a marker that is closely correlated with risk of progression to MCI or dementia. If you're positive on the p-tau217, chances are that you might be in the process of Alzheimer's disease.
So p-tau217, we actually have a video where we covered that in depth, is 94% accurate in detecting brain changes, matching the accuracy of expensive PET scans. For context, MCI stands for mild cognitive impairment, the stage between normal aging and dementia where you might forget appointments or struggle to find your words, but basically can still live independently. What's remarkable is that p-tau217 starts rising 15 to 20 years before any symptoms appear, when tau protein in brain cells begin to tangle or malfunction. So for us as ApoE4 carriers, who often show changes earlier, sometimes as early as our 40s or 50s, this test becomes our early warning system. All right, now that we talked about the test, let's turn to Dr. Sylvia Villeneuve's groundbreaking presentation on preclinical Alzheimer's disease, that silent phase that gives us our greatest opportunity. What she revealed about this window transforms how we think about prevention.
Alzheimer's disease spans in the brain over many, many years. And there is this window of 15 to 20 years, even maybe more than that, where the disease accumulates in the brain, do damage, but people still don't know that they have the disease because they don't have symptoms. On the more positive side, it's also a wonderful window to try to stop the disease, or at least to try to prevent it, to postpone the clinical onset.
So think about that. We have potentially 2 decades to intervene before symptoms appear. During this preclinical phase, amyloid plaques are slowly accumulating between brain cells like debris in a drainage system, while tau tangles begin forming inside neurons, disrupting their internal transport networks. For us as APOE4 carriers, who can now get tested early, this is our golden opportunity. Our APOE4 gene makes us less efficient at clearing amyloid, like having a slower drainage system, if you want, which means we accumulate these proteins faster. But with 15 to 20 years to work with, we have time to implement tons of strategy that enhance clearance and protect our neurons. But first of all, how common is this silent accumulation? The answer might actually surprise you.
What's showing from the Harvard Aging Brain Study, but we see this consistently across cohort, is that you have about 25% of cognitively normal older adults that do have elevated level of amyloid in their brain and they have no symptoms.
So 1 in 4 cognitively normal adults actually already have brain amyloid. And as APOE4 carriers, especially those of us who are homozygotes like me, we are likely overrepresented in those like 25%. Studies show that by age 70, about 50% of E4 heterozygotes and 90% of E4 homozygotes have significant amyloid accumulation. This underscores why early testing is critical for us. We can't afford to wait until symptoms appear. So Dr. Villeneuve's team tracked what happened where both amyloid and tau are present, and the results are sobering but crucial for us to understand.
We followed them for 3.5 years and then saw that more than 50% of the one in the A plus T plus group, so one positive on both biomarker, developed mild cognitive impairment compared to less than 10% within the other group.
All right, let me break down what A plus T plus mean. A plus means amyloid positive on PET scan or blood test. T plus means tau positive. When you have just amyloid, which is A plus T minus, your brain is like a house with a leaky roof. It's problematic, but manageable. But when tau joins the party, which is A plus T plus, it's like the support beams start rotting too, and the combination accelerates decline exponentially. But the story doesn't end there. When they extended the follow-up, the finding became even more definitive.
If we follow the participant now to 6 years, we see that everyone have developed cognitive impairment, with 40% of the A plus T plus participants that have received a clinical diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease.
So this is the critical insight. Once both amyloid and tau are elevated, what researchers call A plus T plus status, cognitive decline becomes inevitable without intervention. The 100% progression rate means this combination triggers an unstoppable cascade unless we act. But remember, we have that 15 to 20-year window before reaching that point, and that's our intervention zone where lifestyle change, medication, and emerging therapies can prevent us from ever becoming A plus T plus. All right, if you are finding this as valuable as I am, and honestly, you should be, because this is literally life-changing information for us carriers, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and hit the notification bell. We break down every major APOE4 research development every week, so you don't have to wade through medical jargon and get lost in all the posts on different social media, on all the different publications that goes outside. You'll get the science you need in a format you can actually use. As well, check out the Phoenix community. We are a community of like-minded APOE4 carriers who are on the same journey, finding solutions, partnering with pharma and medtech companies, and gathering data to advance research. If you are invested in your life, check us out. All right, let's move back to the conference. Here's where hope enters the equation, because I always hate those conferences which are like doomy, gloomy, which doesn't bring any solutions. Despite our genetic risk, Dr. Villeneuve shared that compelling evidence about what we can actually control.
We know that older age, being an APOE4 carrier, and female sex increase the risk of having Alzheimer's disease. Almost 2/3 of people living with Alzheimer's disease are women. We also know, and this is more of the good news, that we as a community think that about 45% of the risk of Alzheimer's disease is modifiable.
So nearly half of our Alzheimer's risk comes from factors we can change. Things like blood pressure, diabetes, hearing loss, smoking, obesity, depression, physical inactivity, social isolation, and air pollution. For us, ApoE4 carriers, these represent massive leverage. Think about it. If we can cut our risk nearly in half through lifestyle changes, it makes total sense to invest time and energy to do that. All right, but what actually works? The research revealed some surprising protective factors. First, about education.
The one with lower level of education have more pathology, amyloid pathology in their brain compared with the one with higher level of education. The asymptomatic phase of people with autosomal dominant Alzheimer's disease, really strongly suggesting that even if you have a genetic mutation that will eventually lead you to develop the clinical symptoms, we can do things, probably postpone for, 1 year, 2 years, the onset of the accumulation of the pathology.
So even with genetic mutations that guarantees Alzheimer's, like the rare PS1 or APP mutation that causes early onset familial Alzheimer's, education delays pathology accumulation. Education builds what scientists call cognitive reserve, and we actually have another video coming very soon on that topic, which is essentially extra neural pathways and connections that allow the brain to compensate for damage. It's like having backup routes when the main highways are blocked. This gives us all a lot of hope because our lifestyle choice matter regardless of our genetic burden. Every year of education, every new skill learned, every language mastered adds to this reserve. So one advice I have for you, if you are listening and getting a bit concerned, is learn new things. Just learn things that can activate tons of different areas in your brain. Let's say a musical instrument, you basically have to read the solfege, you have to use your ear to listen to the music that you're playing, you have hand coordination, you probably have a bit of memory as well. Learning a language could also help. So a lot of these different skills that are activating different parts of your brain are extremely useful. Of course, don't force it. If you hate playing music or if you hate a specific language, just don't do it. Just find things that you enjoy and consider that a little push for you to take on this new skill and learn new things. Then we also saw that research revealed other protective factors that might already be in your medicine cabinet.
If people with hypertension have more amyloid, I don't find this association. And the reason is because it seems that hyperintensive drugs seem to be protecting toward the accumulation of amyloid. We have the impression that the same is probably happening for cholesterol drug, that they have a protective effect on the brain. So vascular risk factor, a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease, but it seems that the ones that are taking medication are somehow more protected.
All right, this is so crucial for us. Heart health equals brain health. Managing your blood pressure and cholesterol doesn't just protect our hearts, it protects our brain from amyloid accumulation. Common blood pressure medication like ACE inhibitors or ARBs may enhance the brain's ability to clear amyloid through improved blood flow and reduce inflammation. Statins for cholesterol appear to have similar protective effects, possibly by reducing brain inflammation and improving the function of ApoE proteins. Even our impaired ApoE4 version. So for ApoE4 carriers who often have higher cholesterol levels, this dual benefit is especially important. But like I always say, probably start with the no regrets move, right? Statins comes with usually a lot of side effects. Try controlling your cholesterol levels with lifestyle changes, diet changes, because these never come with side effects. So just start with that and then implement slowly medication like ezetimibe that might have way less side effects than statins before going into these. Now we're moving on to one of the most surprising findings of this conference.
The top candidate that seemed to be preventive against developing amyloid and tau is mindfulness. The fact of being able to be in the present moment, and then also the fact of being non-judgmental. On the other side, on the risk factor side, perturbative negative thinking, always rumination, having thoughts in your brain that are negative, seem to be a risk factor.
Mindfulness, the simple practice of being present and non-judgmental, basically tops the list of protective factors against both amyloid and tau. Meanwhile, negative rumination increases the risk. This isn't just feel-good type of advice, it's measurable brain protection. Studies show mindfulness meditation actually increases the thickness of your prefrontal cortex while reducing cortisol levels that damage the hippocampus. And the hippocampus is our memory center, which is especially vulnerable in ApoE4 carriers. So regular meditation practice has been shown to reduce inflammatory markers and improve the brain waste clearing lymphatic system that operates during restful states. So how can you start? Don't go crazy on 20-minute session. Just start maybe by 5 minutes a day. You have tons of apps that exist today. You have like Headspace, Calm, but you can find like tons of those. Just find one that you like and start doing like guided meditation. Everyone can do that for at least 5 minutes per day. And then if you like it, just slowly increase it. I personally always had trouble doing it because I never felt the benefit, but the evidence is really compelling, and investing 5, 10, or even 20 minutes every day for it seems to be really worth it. And you have another added benefit is that mindfulness overall has been proven to increase your overall satisfaction and your overall happiness. So you become more content with life, which, it's usually a good thing to do. And again, it's one of these like no regrets interventions that I always love, right? You never get any side effects from meditating, except probably like losing the time if it doesn't help you at all. But overall, it's a net positive. All right, next, Dr. Villeneuve's team is pioneering a completely new approach to prevention using sleep medication.
The trial that we're starting at McGill University, we're going to give a DORA drug to our participant to try to reduce this accumulation of amyloid and phosphorylation of the tau. The DORA are usually given to improve sleep, but we think that it could also help to reduce the first appearance of the pathology. We know that one of the mechanisms by which amyloid clear out.
Okay, what is interesting is those DORA drugs, so DORA for dual orexin receptor antagonist, like suvorexant, like Belsomra, and lamborexant, like Dayvigo. These enhance the brain's natural cleaning system during sleep. So during deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink by up to 60%, allowing cerebrospinal fluid to flush through and wash away amyloid and tau protein, like a dishwasher for your brain. Isn't that super cool? ApoE4 carriers often have disrupted sleep patterns and reduced slow-wave sleep, making this cleaning process less efficient. So DORA drugs specifically enhance this deep restorative sleeping phase. But here's what's remarkable about the speed of effect.
This wonderful study that was done in 2023 that suggested that if you give a DORA drug to people mid-age and then you monitor their CSF biomarker every 2 hours, after 36 hours, you have a change in the phosphorylation of the tau and then also in the amyloid marker, really suggesting that the DORA actually might do something to the soluble form of amyloid and tau.
In just 36 hours, sleep medication changes tau phosphorylation and amyloid levels in cerebrospinal fluid. That's not years or months, that's 36 hours, it's a weekend basically. So the study measured the soluble forms of these proteins, the ones floating freely before they clump into plaques and tangles. This rapid effect opens entirely new possibilities for prevention, suggesting we might be able to actively manage protein levels rather than just slow accumulation. So for ApoE4 carriers who start accumulating proteins earlier, this could be a game-changing intervention. As always, in terms of sleep, you might want to try lifestyle intervention first. First of all, you want to track it, whether you are using a smartwatch or a Neura ring like one that I wear. What you track, you can improve. So always start by tracking your sleep. Then you have tons of different interventions that you can do. Mainly, the most important one is to have a consistent sleeping schedule. So don't go crazy on the weekend to sleep late and then change your pattern during the week. Even a 1-2 hour switch can have a profound impact. Then you have a lot of different other smaller interventions you can do. Usually your circadian rhythm is defined by when the sun first touches your eyes. So when you wake up, try to directly go 15 minutes, 20 minutes under the outdoor sun. So your body basically understands that it's the day, because the light of the sun in the morning is very different compared to the light that is coming during the evening based on how the atmosphere is and the angle from the sun. I won't go into the details there because I actually don't know that much about it. What I know is your body is able to detect when it's sunrise sun versus sunset sun. So ideally, you want to do both. Like if you can only pick one, just pick sunrise because your body is able to adapt. But if you can be under the sun at sunrise and at sunset, your body will basically be synchronized. A second very important tip I have for you for improving your sleep is to remove all the blue light and all the excitement that you have at least 1, if possible, 2 hours before sleep, which means don't bring your phone into your bedroom. That's a key point, and try to not do something like super exciting 1 or 2 hours before, so you have a ramp down routine. So we were talking about meditation before. That would be a great time to meditate because you are ramping down, or try to read a book or journal, for example. Then the peace of your bedroom is also very important. So not having noise, not having light during the night, even like those little red lights of sleeping electronics might disturb your sleep, and you might want to reduce the temperature of your room because usually your body decreases in temperature how it sleeps. So a colder room means a better sleep. A few other things you can do is to not eat too close to your sleeping time. So if you can do like 3 hours, end your meal 3 hours before your sleeping time, that is great. So if you start with that, you'll probably already see a dramatic increase in your sleep quality. All right, we diverted a lot on the sleep. I'm actually passionate about that because it's something that I'm trying to improve in myself. By the way, let me know in the comment if you prefer me to give additional context like these, additional lifestyle interventions that you can do when I cover these conferences, or if you prefer me to really stick to the hardcore conference information without me adding like these little snippets of information. I'm actually open for both. I can make videos on sleep alone and videos only on the conference, but I feel like it might be cool to combine the two so you actually come with solutions when you hear about problems. Anyways, back to the conference. One of the most thought-provoking insights that came when Dr. Villeneuve addressed our ApoE4 gene directly.
The ApoE4 allele is the ancestral allele. So at one point in evolution, it was a good allele. Why is it that now actually it's harmful? I think that we need to understand that. Is it our lifestyle that changed?
Guess what? Our ApoE4 gene was once beneficial. It's actually the original human version that all our ancestors carried. ApoE3 apparently appeared 220,000 years ago, and ApoE2 only 80,000 years ago. So ApoE4 likely helped our ancestors survive infections and heal from injuries through stronger inflammatory responses, which is very ironic because now we're trying to always reduce inflammation because basically we don't die that often from infections or from wounds. Because in our modern world, longer lifespan with processed foods, chronic stress, and reduced physical activity, the same inflammatory vigor becomes very harmful. So understanding why modern life makes it harmful could unlock prevention strategies specifically for us carriers, perhaps by recreating aspects of ancestral lifestyle like intermittent fasting, higher physical activity, and anti-inflammatory diets. So despite all these discoveries, Dr. Villeneuve identified a critical gap.
This is the drug pipeline for the drug that are tested in 2025 for Alzheimer's disease. And then here I'm only showing you the drug that are tested right now in the preclinical phase of Alzheimer's disease. And my first take home on that is that there's not enough effort, according to me, related to trying to stop the disease in the preclinical phase.
Very few drugs target the preclinical phase despite that crucial 15 to 20 year window. Most trials focus on people who already have symptoms or on the verge of having symptoms. These are when significant brain damage has already occurred or about to occur. This is why lifestyle intervention become even more critical for us right now. We really can't wait for a drug that may be a decade away. We need to act during our window of opportunity with the tools available today. And if that is lifestyle intervention, then let's do the maximum we can with it. Once again, if everything I said resonates with you, please join the Phoenix community. We are growing extremely fast. And because of that, we're gaining more and more negotiation power and strength when we're discussing with big pharma and medtech company. And not only do we help their research by enrolling our members into clinical trials or by running studies ourselves, with medtech companies, we are also helping you implement all these lifestyle changes by helping you track, measure, and define what works for you or not, so you have the confidence to keep these lifestyle changes. On top of that, having a group that understands you and that is on the same journey is extremely beneficial to be, accountable for these changes. I always find it funny that I have a triathlon group, I have a reading club, I have an entrepreneurship club, but I don't have an ApoE4 club. And that's why I built the Phoenix community. It's to have this group of ApoE4 carriers who are this supportive force that moves the needle with you. So we create all this momentum for lifestyle changes, because you and I, we all need that additional tip of motivation, especially when our discipline is not always 100%. Cool. Next in the conference, we're talking about women who carry ApoE4, and the research revealed specific vulnerabilities and opportunities.
GFAP is a marker, not perfect, but a marker of inflammation. And what we know is that in cognitively normal individual, the amyloid positive participant do have increased GFAP level. GFAP, it is really changing in the preclinical phase of the disease, and this change is driven by female. We know that female are at increased risk compared to male to have Alzheimer's disease.
So GFAP, for gliofibrillary acidic protein, shows inflammation changes primarily in women during preclinical phase. So this protein comes from the astrocytes, which once again are the brain support cells that become activated when they detect damage. By the way, we have another video completely focusing on astrocytes. Women show higher GFAP levels years before symptoms, suggesting their brains mount a stronger inflammatory response to early pathology. For female ApoE4 carriers, this double hit of genetic risk plus sex-based vulnerability makes early intervention even more critical. And the timing matters a lot.
If you think about what is happening prior to the clinical phase of the disease, menopause, the transition to menopause, happens within age about 50, which is exactly 20 years prior to when usually people start to have cognitive impairment. Is it possible that the change in glucose metabolism, the increased inflammation, the change in the vascular system might put the brain at predisposition to be a super good environment for the amyloid to stick together and the tau to propagate?
Menopause at 50 aligns perfectly with that 20-year preclinical window. The loss of estrogen during menopause affects brain glucose metabolism. Basically, the brain becomes less efficient at using its primary fuel. Estrogen has also an anti-inflammatory property and helps maintain the blood-brain barrier. And for female ApoE4 carriers, this suggests hormone management during menopause could be particularly protective. Of course, this needs careful consideration with healthcare provider given the complex risk-benefit profiles. But if you are going through menopause, please discuss that with your MD, with your healthcare provider, and explore the different options. I believe it's very worth it. All right, to finish, Dr. Villeneuve actually ended with a direct call for what we need.
Preventive intervention will need to be multifactorial. We know that Alzheimer's disease is not just amyloid and tau, and they will need to be personalized. And an increased effort needs to be devoted toward finding treatment for ApoE4 carrier and female.
This is a watershed moment. Leading researchers are finally calling for treatment designed specifically for our unique biology as ApoE4 carriers, rather than one-size-fits-all approaches that may work differently in our brains. And that's why we see so many different pharma companies that are reaching out to us, the Phoenix community, to recruit ApoE4 carriers into the clinical trial. So this is really a win-win for everyone. The carriers, us, we have access to cutting-edge technology. The pharma, they manage to recruit people who are motivated, who are compliant, who will follow all the procedures into the clinical trials. So while the science advances, there's a challenge we need to understand. Next, Dr. Joanne Pike, the CEO of the Alzheimer's Association, revealed the funding situation.
United States government grants that have been delayed or even canceled. Currently, the U.S. government invests $3.8 billion annually through our National Institutes of Health. In 2011, the government invested less than $500 million. That's million with an M. Now we're at $3.8 billion with a B.
Funding has grown from $500 million to $3.8 billion, which is a remarkable 7.6-fold increase that enabled breakthroughs like this FDA-approved blood test and new treatments. But with current disruption threatening progress, the Alzheimer's Association is stepping up.
The Alzheimer's Association, along with philanthropic partners, have decided to launch a bridge program, a bridge funding program aimed at supporting early career scientists who are experiencing disruptions in their funding. This program will launch in August, and we are grateful to the Robertson Foundation for helping us establish this fund.
There's this bridge program, this ensure critical research continues despite federal funding challenges. It specifically targets early career scientists who often drive innovation but are most vulnerable to funding gaps. So it's another reason for hope. The scientific community is committed to finding solutions for us, with private philanthropy stepping up when government funding falters. If you are researchers or if you're working on Alzheimer's, please reach out to me. We would love to have a chat with you. And if you want, come to talk to our patients, all the APOE4 carriers, to see who you're actually working for. These are fantastic opportunities to connect the community and the researchers and create these collaboration. All right, to conclude, let's recap what changes everything for us as APOE4 carriers. We have a 15 to 20-year window before symptoms appear. That's close to 2 decades to act. FDA-approved blood tests for p-tau217 available now in major labs can detect changes early without expensive brain scans, and you can then monitor your progress. Second, nearly half of our Alzheimer's risk is modifiable through lifestyle choices. That's massive leverage against our genetic risk. Among everything that you can do, mindfulness tops the list of protective factors by reducing inflammation and protecting brain structure, while blood pressure and cholesterol medication offer unexpected brain protection beyond their cardiovascular benefit. Remember, lifestyle changes can also help reducing blood pressure and reducing cholesterol, so start with that first. Last, researchers are finally calling for treatment designed specifically for APOE4 carriers and also specifically for women. So this recognizes our unique biology and that needs targeted approaches. The message is super clear. Our genetic risk is not our destiny. We have time, we have tools, and we have growing scientific support. If you are ready to take control of your brain health journey, join us at the Phoenix community, where hundreds of APOE4 carriers are currently translating breakthrough science into action. We share our blood test results, we discuss treatment options, we support each other in this journey. Together, we're not just carriers, we are pioneers writing a different future. Remember, all of this knowledge that you have heard today without action is just a potential. Let's turn this research into result. And if I have a last advice for you, is just start changing something in your lifestyle today. No matter how small it is, you don't need to do all the changes at one time because those will be incredibly overwhelming. Just start stacking them up slowly, build it into your habits. Doing something is better than doing nothing. All right, I'm Dr. Kevin Tran, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll dive even deeper into practical strategies you can implement today. Bye.